Ghana is doing some huge numbers. For the first time in the history of Ghana, our economy is valued over $100 billion based on present nominal value. This is huge because in 2024, we ended the year with our economy valued at $83 billion plus. And in 2025, we ended the year with our economy valued over $110 billion. The last time we had numbers jumping up so hugely was 20 years ago. In 2005, our economy for the first time was valued over $10 billion. And in 2006, we jumped up to over $20 billion. And our economy has been growing steadily since then, till 2025, when we no longer grew steadily, but we made a huge leap. And that huge leap is expected to continue in 2026. So by the end of 2026, we are projected to rise to over $140 billion, which will make Ghana the 7th largest economy in Africa. We are currently number 8. My name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about stats and facts, and I break them down for you to understand them. So subscribe if you like intellectual conversations. So before I go into my figures, right, let me tell you what my shirt says. My shirt says, statistics are like mini skirts. They don't reveal any essentials. So I don't just give you the statistics. I tell you the story the statistics is trying to tell you. All right. So let's start from 1960. And the reason why I'm starting from 1960 is because today is February 24th, 2026, which is exactly 60 years since Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown as the president of Ghana. And let me tell you what the economy of Ghana experienced that year. And I need to add that we are talking about nominal economy, which means that the value of the economy at the time, not adjusted for inflation and all that, right? Because if we adjust for inflation, some of the numbers will look different. But we are talking about what the value of the economy was at the time this report is talking about, this thing I'm talking about happened. So in 1966, when Nkrumah was overthrown, the economy of Ghana was valued at $2.13 billion. In 1969, when the military government handed over to Buzia, the economy of Ghana was valued at $1.96 billion. The military government sent Ghana back. And it is interesting because, if you guys remember, when Nkrumah was overthrown, even though the CIA played a role in his overthrowing, Nkrumah wasn't very popular when he was overthrown. Ghanaians were actually jubilating when Nkrumah was overthrown. But a few years after Nkrumah was overthrown, people started chanting for Nkrumah to come back. So much so that Buzia stopped schools. Like previously, universities in Ghana gave students free food in the dining halls, right? And Buzia stopped that because students were protesting for Nkrumah to come back. That is how bad the military government messed up the economy of Ghana in just 3 years. So what the numbers is telling us is that I'm a big advocate for no military rule in Africa. There is absolutely nothing anybody can tell me to support military rule in Africa. And let me even get more into more figures to get to where I'm trying to go. From 1972, when your boy Achampong came to power, Achampong was relatively a good leader, right? The economy of Ghana was over $2 billion, which means that we didn't grow that much under Buzia, and then he took over. And between 1972 and 1992, the economy of Ghana went around 6 billion, from 2 billion to 6 billion in 20 years. Our economy did not grow. For the 20 years, we were under essentially military rule. Ghana and military rule do not gel. And I imagine it's the same for the rest of Africa. Instability and governance or economic growth are not bedfellows. They are actually enemies. That is what the numbers of Ghana's GDP are telling us. And so the economy of Ghana started growing steadily from 2002 when Kufuor took over. Kufuor took over in 2001, but we're still under HEPIC. And actually, let me give Rollins some credit. The economy of Ghana went down in 1993 because we were transitioning from military rule to civilian rule. So that year, prices took a little hit. But from 1993 to 2000, the economy of Ghana was growing steadily. In 2000, our economy took a hit. I'm not sure what the reason of that was. I have to go back and look into the reason for that because I went on Treadometric, is a website, just to look at the GDP and connect it to the history that I know. 2000, I'm not very sure what happened that year. If I find something interesting, I'll come back and share it with you. But I know that I was very young at the time, but I know that people were calling for a change of government because life wasn't good enough for Ghanaians in 2000. My theory is the VAT that was put on Ghana from 1998 onwards, Ghana needed some time to adjust to it. That is my theory. It's not substantiated. So from 2001, HIPIC, from 2002 onwards, the economy of Ghana has been growing steadily, which tells me that democracy has been a good investment for Ghana. And in 2005, we hit a giant strike when our economy hit $10 billion for the first time. And then we went up to double that the following year. That was when Kufuor liberalized the financial market in Ghana and more banks started coming into Ghana, giving people loans. They were chasing our mothers with loans. 2005 to 2007, 2008, yeah. Barclays and other banks were, before those times, right? Barclays, Stanchart, those banks were bougie. They were not interested in dealing with Ghana's informal sector. But when Kufuor liberalized the financial sector and these Nigerian banks, Fidelity and GT, started coming into Ghana, and these Nigerian banks, because they are African banks, understood the African market, started doing business with the market women. And these banks, what they will do is, they know that our mothers don't have time to go to the bank. So they had tellers go to the markets to take, the contributions or the savings of these market women and take it to the banks. And that helped to bring the informal sector to the banking industry. And luckily for us, mobile money came and our mothers didn't even have to rely on tellers anymore. They can send the money through their phones. So when this started happening, the multinational banks, the Stanchats and the Barclays realized that there is money in the informal sector. And that doubled our economy that year from 2005 to 2006, and it continued and has been continuing steadily since. We've had some years that our economy didn't grow hugely, but essentially, for the most part, the economy of Ghana has been growing. But last year was a discovery. Our economy grew more immensely than the last time it did under Kufuor. But I've talked about these numbers about the economy a few times on this channel. So let me talk about something I haven't talked about in a while. That is what is growing our economy. So I went back and looked at the top 10 biggest economies in Africa. South Africa, Kenya. I'm not naming them like in line. South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Ghana. These countries, there's something I noticed. Ghana and Nigeria are the only two countries in Africa, in the top 10 biggest economy in Africa, whose economy is basically driven by natural resources. Every economy in Africa is driven by natural resources, but in other African countries, the natural resources is substituted by what's the name? Innovations in the market. Financial innovation in the case of Kenya and South Africa, tourism innovation in the case of Morocco. Ghana and Nigeria still relies on natural resources. In Ghana, gold, cocoa, and oil, and in the case of Nigeria, oil, are the things driving our economy. Which means that when something happens in the world market to drive down the price of these commodities, we are, what is the French word? Fact. So my point is, while we are growing steadily and even this time making giant strikes, we need to realize that diversification is a form of protection. The youth of Ghana are doing well in the tech space. I would like to see Ghana diversify some money to that space, and that could solve a lot of our problems. The corruption in the customs service is not going away. There are digital solutions to it that the government is not applying the right way. There are so many opportunities to grow our economy in the tech space and service space. And the youth of Ghana are already doing stuff in that regard. This year, I want to see the government turn their attention to the areas that the private sector is already working at and see how they can collaborate with the private sector, especially the youth, to grow our economy even bigger. That is the point I want to make with this video. My name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about geopolitics and trade from the perspective of an African. And this week, I'll be talking a lot more about some of the innovations. I said I'll talk about the innovation that I want to propose in the tomato industry. That video will be probably coming on Thursday. So I'll talk to you then.